What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your host and producer, Logan Landers. Join me here today to talk about the 2024 Green Bay Packers draft recap. Helping me out is Mr. William Yanish III, coming over from FirstRoundMock.com. William, how you doing, man? And also, give us your analysis. What you thought of the draft for the Green Bay Packers now that we're probably about a month or so, apart from draft night. So now you got some time to sit back and reflect. How do you think Green Bay did overall with their, what I believe, 11 players on the board there? So they got a ton of talent coming into their roster this upcoming season.
Oh, yeah, dude. I'm doing great, by the way. And, yeah, they ended up with exactly what they needed, after the playoff, beating that we gave them last year, meaning the Niners. But, they hung with the top of the NFC. They knocked the Cowboys out, everything else. They had a good draft last year. Luke Musgrave, one of my favorite players, local hero around Grand Junction, or, his uncle is. And Tucker Kraft coming in, and then they've got a young quarterback they're about to, sign. They draft, Jordan Morgan at the top, and then Jacob Monk in the 5th round, and then Travis Glover, all offensive linemen that are great. And then the core of the secondary, between drafting Javon Bullard out of Georgia, like I said, some of these big school players, Evan Williams, another safety, Kitana Odapo, another safety in the 5th round. I mean, they did excellent in this draft. And, snagging – sorry what those I mean. Anyway, snagging Tulane quarterback Michael Pratt in the 7th was an absolute steal. That guy, he had offers from Harvard, Yale, and all these Ivy League schools coming out, and he ended up at Tulane, because they're have the best football program, or at least, that's kind of what it seemed like he was after. And also, one of my big 3 quarterbacks this year, I had a 1st-round grade on Michael Pratt, and my 1st-round grade isn't a projection of where they're going. It's where I think their value is. And Michael Pratt is one of those quarterbacks. He knows what he's doing. He's tough. The dude will run through a brick wall, if you put it in front of him. And that's great. But, to have a backup like that, with your starter, Jordan Love, and then, the defense, they ended up in the 2nd round at number 45, snagging Texas A&M linebacker Adrian Cooper. And, that was a big name. I can't say too much. I didn't see a lot of film on him. But, like I said, big school, big name, everything else. College football, that seems what this draft was based around, like pro-ready prospects at their positions, that have faced the best competition that there is. And, Oregon safety, Evan Williams at 111. Oh, that's terrible bourbon, by the way. But anyway, I don't know, man. I really like what the Packers did, and what Coach Matt LaFleur did for his offense, going to going to the trenches rather, and just solidifying this team after what they did, like I mentioned in the playoffs, last season. Overall, it was a great draft, I feel, and last year, and this is going to be one of those teams that me as a 49er fan is looking forward to in the playoffs, like we do the Cowboys. It's like that's the team we want right there, because we want them at their best, when we want that team at their best when we play them. If you can't beat the best, then you shouldn't even be in the conversation. So it just looks solid, man, what is happening up there, and they're a playoff contender now. So
Yeah, and when you looked at Green Bay last year, kind of a team that came from out of nowhere. No one really thought they would be as successful as they did. Certainly I didn't. I thought they'd be a good team, but definitely not a team that could make some noise with Jordan Love and having a solid run all the way to the playoffs ultimately. But They had a lot of draft picks, as you see here on the screen if you're watching us live. And they said, like you mentioned, they need to fill some holes, and they have filled pretty much all of them, it seems, with this draft just alone. I mean, you mentioned they went George Morgan with their first-round selection. Need some help on the O-line there. As you know, got to protect your quarterback. Potential star in the making. Edgar Cooper, second round. I thought that was a good selection as well. Always can have some good depth in your running back room. Javon Bullard's a guy who I know a good bit about, being 20 minutes from Athens and watching Georgia. Solid safety, obviously, for a really good team past couple of years. So I think he's going to help out. And then you got Marshawn Lloyd, who did some good work at USC out there with the Trojans. So, I mean, you've already improved your running back room just in those 2 rounds there, potentially for a couple of years. So that's helped out. I like Tyron Hopper, the linebacker out of Missouri. He's got some good film on him if you haven't seen much so already. He's got some really good flashes there. And as we get to the later rounds, rounds 4 through 7, you got guys like Evan Williams, Jacob Monk, Katana Oladipo, Michael Pratt, Travis Glover, and Kalen King. Some guys who are going to have to fight for some roster spots, as you mentioned. We're going to have to really kind of help out, maybe on the practice squad first and foremost, but then work their way up through that depth chart. I think Pratt, as you mentioned, is a guy who's coming out of Tulane, had a lot of really good just school moments there, and has some really good game film. That's going to help shore up your quarterback room, obviously behind Jordan Love. But if knocking on wood, if he goes down with injury or something along those lines, you've got a solid backup who's proved it in college. We'll see how that can translate to the NFL. But I think ultimately, though, William, I think the Packers did a solid job at their draft. I'd give them a B+ grade. Because I like the talent they selected there. They filled a lot of holes that they needed to fill. And it's a team, man, that's looking pretty solid on paper coming into this 2024 season. I think that overall the team improves with this draft. I wasn't scratching my head at a lot of these picks. And I think that overall Green Bay did a really good job this draft. And we'll see how it plays out on the field this upcoming season. We'll see.
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, what it looks like, everything you mentioned. I mean, Marshawn Lloyd, I thought he made Caleb Williams, look pretty good, or was good safety valve for him, and he's. I like that pick right there.
Yeah, that's it. That could be a sleeper pick. I know obviously you're very high on Michael Pratt as well, so maybe some guys who were taken middle to late rounds who could maybe come and help out Green Bay one day in the very near future. But time will tell, William. We're just here to see how they're doing initially off their draft. And who knows what these guys are going to look like in a couple of seasons and how they can be contributing as Green Bay Packers. Well, for Mr. William Yanish III, thank you so much for coming on, man. It's always a pleasure. I've been your host and producer, Logan Landers, guys. Once again, if you like the episode, like, follow, share, and subscribe on Facebook and YouTube, main two platforms. You can find us there. But if you enjoy podcasts, well, you can find us on all major podcast streaming platforms as well. Until next time, everyone, we'll talk to you again on another live episode.